Hello, Next Geners. Welcome to our Friday form preview. It's Doncaster Mile Day, TJ Smith Stakes. We've got the ATC Derby. We've got the Inglis Sires for the 2-year-olds. And we've had a tough week, Hayden, because one of our all-time favourites, perhaps number one ever on our list, Arcadia Queen, retired this week. How devastated were you?
I was shattered. It's private minute silence on my own, followed by a few tears and then some great memories of the little monster who went plus 9.8 over 1,800 metres at Ascot.
Yeah.
And then she backed it up. First career start for Mr. Waller over 1,300 metres, produced the best of the day, plus 7.8, when she looked like she was on her way to possibly taking an Everest. But the Everest run for that campaign came in the first up performance of Mr. Waller. Unfortunately, couldn't get her to back up that year, but she produced the big number at Flemington. Then she went to Caulfield when we made the call that we might have a new Cox Plate favourite on our hands, and she duly saluted. Then unfortunately it rained, and it was good night nurse from there. But definitely one of my favourites, and God bless her in retirement.
Apologies to anyone if we do have some lag today. My internet connection isn't great, but we'll press on anyway. Mate, it was a good week last week. We've got plenty of questions in today. So everyone who asked a question on Facebook, you'll get a mention. We'll go through your questions. A little bit of a lick of the ice cream from last week. Shared ambition. Yale Town to lead all the way. Well, we nailed that. Unfortunately, our best bet, Crone. Well, Grant Jones asked the question last week, had she trained off? I think it's fair to say that she had come to the end of her prep, and can't blame her. She'd put in some great performances this prep. Roheron each way ran third at better than $3 the place. Hungry Heart, $7. What a run by Kerry McAvoy from last. And the punters were saying this is an on-track bias day. Well, they went quick up front, and you go quick up front, the best horses usually fight out the finish. And we were happy to take the $7 rather than the $3 on Harmony Rose. Great run there. I think you said on the show, we said the Tancred was an open race, and you gave Sir Dragonet a shout. We know what he produced in the Cox Plate. He's an outstanding horse, but we've only sort of seen now for the second time in Australia what he's absolutely capable of. Rock was a bit unlucky running fourth in the race last week, the Doncaster Prelude. Mr. Seawolf, my big outsider at 35-1, ran second. So if you got $10 a place, good on you. Unfortunately, we couldn't get out of trouble with Die Kingdom Come in the last race, although I think you did mention the two that fought out the finish, but not a bad day overall last week.
It was a very good day. It was a very enjoyable day as well. It was many were banging the drum about leader bias, etc., but I think we made the point last week that On Speed was going to be the place to be, and when tracks race in that good 3 range, heading towards an F2, when they're good slippery tracks, talented horses who do sit up front and can run time from the front are awfully hard to beat. It takes a lane bias from wider for those to catch them. So I didn't think anything that won there shouldn't have won. And I thought the track itself raced quite good. You can always draw a statistic to find the answer that you want, but we've seen some horses make ground. Hungry Heart proved that you could make ground if you were good enough. And just on her, I think it's important we make, I do say week in, week out, the horses that we need to highlight and we need to follow, because that's a very important part of the form process itself. Last week, all campaign, I've been pushing Miami Bounds, a horse who's been absolutely flying, just sit there ready to wait. She's a horse that you could strike on. We may have missed the opportunity with her big slashing performance when she ran third. One I would put down in the notes, and even though it looked, and I'm probably stating the obvious, but Hungry Heart, I don't think we've seen the best of that horse yet. I think there's a little bit more up the sleeve, and I don't think we've seen a complete performance. She might be the one in the next 6 to 8 months, it might be able to push into the 6-7 range. And, she might be a little bit better than what we think at the moment.
What I'd love to do once this carnival's over is do a couple of podcasts on, break down the age groups this year. Who are the best 3-year-olds, the best 3-year-old performance for this season? Perhaps a 3-year-old to follow into their 4-year-old year. We can have a look at some content like that. I think the punters would enjoy it. But let's fly through Randwick. We're going to fly through the non-Group 1 races because there are 4 Group 1s, 2 of them, the Doncaster and the TJ. I'd love to do a deep dive in, but we start off with the Winter Garden Stakes for 2-year-olds. I don't think off the top of my head that any of these horses contested the Golden Slipper. Was there a standout here over 1,100 metres?
No, dealing with a compressed field all below benchmark data to date. They're horses that look like they're improvers. There's some there that look like potential climbers. Dangerous betting race. Only horse that is worthy of me touching on, you get double-figure prices, number 7, Ashima. She's had a good campaign. Go right back to her first career performance, December last year. She was a 22nd best of the day, 1.1 lengths above IVR benchmark. So she does have the number to her name. A previous start on the Kenzo where there was some juice out of the ground. She was a second best of the day performance, and her wet track indicator suggests that she will get through the track with a bit of sting in it. So in a non-betting race, she would be the one I would want to keep my eye on.
All right, and plus 1.1 is a pretty good performance for a 2-year-old at this point of their campaign, and ran second to Acrobat on debut. I know you had a massive wrap on Acrobat heading towards the Golden Slipper before that horse got injured. Race 2 is the Carbine Club Stakes, Group 3 for 3-year-olds over 1,600 metres. Again, we don't see the Australian Guineas type horses here, although Poland clearly well credentialed. And I think we can forgive him for his last start performance where he went plus 13 through the first section, came out of a race won by Hungry Heart, and obviously that mighty mare filled up our boots last week.
Yes, very true. Difficult race. We touched on Wheelhouse a couple of weeks ago. He was a runner that I wanted to watch. He still stays in that watch category. But track slight concern with him at this point of his career. The Irishman will be a difficult horse to beat. Loved his latest performance, Rose Hill, 5th best of the day, plus 2.9. Lengths above IVR benchmark. Really dug in after a sharp dip. 3.1 length decrease in speed between the 6 and the 400. Regained that speed, accelerated through the line. Love to see that. Track condition, a little bit unsure. So he, hard to get excited about him at a 6-4 style quote. Poland's the horse who I expect to be able to handle the conditions. Think conditions will be of benefit for him. When you get to this distance range on these style of tracks, you see the plus 13.1 from the start previous. Getting into this sort of race, there's a big chance that he could find the front once again and get it a lot softer in front. He'll be hard fit and hardened for this. He's a dangerous runner at double figure odds. The other one worth touching on is Kiku, who will get through the ground.
And we had this similar setup here with Yaletown last week, who came through a plus 10 first section. We said a softer lead here, can lead all the way. We'll take great benefit fitness-wise from that last start. Poland perhaps gets a similar setup here. I agree with you that the Irishman's going to be super hard to beat. In fact, I think he's one of the better bets on the day. But if you like the each-way odds around Poland, we're not going to talk you out of that. Race 3, Country Championships final. I don't have any data on these country horses, mate, so I'll leave it up to you.
Real tricky race. This is the sort of race you can throw up a 50-1 winner quite easily. Arkado is the obvious, comes through, get through the ground, gets the champion Tommy Berry on board. Everything for it is just tick, tick, tick. Extremely short quote. If you want to dive in, might just win. If there is going to be a stupid price winner on the day, it could be my board here. Runner number 6, Subtle Grey. 126s, you'll get 150s. It'll be $30+ the place, maybe $40 the place. Good numbers on tracks, very difficult to find. It's got a good wet track indicator, 1600 metres tick. Its performance 2 starts back at Scone was the 6th best of the day, 0.8 below. In a race like this, in a race of this nature, when you profiles, you can settle somewhere up near the speed. Get in the better part of the track, can be flashy late and can sprint on wet ground. So maybe, just maybe, or $1 the win and $3 the place. Not the sort of horses that I go looking for, but there was just a couple of little pointers there that stood out. So Art Cadeau, and I've got a little bit of interest in Subtle Grey, but not a betting race.
All right. For those who might have missed, there was a little bit of chopping in and out there, but Art Cadeau deserves to be favourite according to Hayden. But if you like to have a little $1 the win, $3 the place, Subtle Grey is massive odds in the Country Championship. Race 4, Adrian Knox Stakes, Group 3 for fillies over 2,000 metres. Soldo Angel, the best credentialed horse, but 9 starts without a win makes it hard to follow a horse like that coming into this sort of race.
Yeah, not for me. Soldo Angel going to have to put a better performance up than what it has to date. The only thing I could find that was a pass mark for mine was shouldn't be any issue on soft 7, heavy 8 ground. Same goes with Flexible, but doesn't have the number. Flexible looks like the big climber. 100% haven't seen career best performance from it yet. It comes in with a 8th best of the day, 1.5 at Kenzo. Wet track indicated good, big 16.5 length squeeze through the mid race, acceleration late, last 200. Everything says on a climber, most likely only got to find 2 lengths to win here. Checkerboard, definitely going to be the horse to catch from the front. Tick dry condition, tick wet conditions, tick track, tick distance. Another one at $10 that you'll get a price about it. But for me, not a race I'm overly interested in betting in.
Yeah. Makes sense. Soldo Angel, obviously at the top, has been given that rating after running second in the Group 1 VRC Oaks behind Personal, but we know that the handicappers can go a little bit over the top with some of those Oaks and Derby winners and performers. Race 5 is the Chairman Quality over 2,600, Group 2. We talked about Mirage Dancer a little bit this prep. He's on the 7-day backup after running 13th to 14th in the Tancred, but he's run in the Sky High 2 starts ago, 3rd to Toffee Tongue and Spirit Ridge. Looks like good form. There's a couple here from New Zealand. A question on Facebook, the first of many. So thank you again for those who contributed. From Luke Buller, tough card and track will be sticky, but I think they have Quick Thinker wrong at $15 in a race that might suit someone on the speed. Looks really well weighted, and I would love if he went forward and took up the speed. What are your thoughts? Great each way for mine on a tough day.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I must say the price is right or price is wrong. It's more of the case if it's a price worth finding out. You can go there 15 to 1, not have a lot on, and you'll be a big chance of getting something back. If he's got numbers everywhere to say, yeah, he's good enough to do it. Plus he's done it this track, 2,400, big wet track numbers. So I like wet track numbers when they are at the track as well.
Yep.
Which to me is a double bonus. So 100% he was in my top 4. And from an each way perspective, he's certainly going to be in the mix. Mirage Dancer, difficult horse to work out. Go on its performance 2 starts back. It's most likely the horse that you really want to be with.
Yeah.
Last start, bad drop off last 200, really looked disinterested. But has an 18th best of the day, plus 0.7 next to its name, this track, this distance, these conditions. So, and off a very similar program and off an identical drop off. So the camp know what they're doing. They're a smart camp. So, you might be getting $10 about a horse that probably should be marked favourite. If you go back on his performance 2 starts back, I mark him favourite. If you go on last start, combined with his historical data, he's about the right price. Difficult horse to assess. The big leaper in the race is down the bottom, number 12, Paths of Glory. His second up run Randwick, 2,000 metres, 16.5 length squeeze through the mid. Real strong, sustained better than +3 figures, 8 to the 6, better than +3.86 to the 4, 2.4 length decline, 4 to the 2, and a 1.2 length increase, 2 to the finish. That was 2 starts back. Last start, Rose Hill, 2,000 metres, 15.9 length mid-race squeeze. Combined with, again, a big last 600, including a 2 length increase in speed last 200. Big wet track numbers, dangerous horse. Looked like they found the right race. He's got the profile that says, I'm just going to show up and this is my grand final. So he might be a dangerous horse at double figure odds. No knock Sacramento. And the big odds runner in the race to watch is number 3, Sir Charles Road, who certainly has the numbers and the talent to win a race like this.
Fair summation there. Last week when we had, horses that we wanted to back early in the card and really sort of had bets throughout the day. Tomorrow, I just think the first 4 races, we don't really have much we want to get involved in. And for me, it sort of starts here, and I'm happy to have a little each way bet on Mirage Dancer. I think he's the best horse in the race. I'm happy to take him on his run 2 starts ago and forgive him last start. And I think $3 a place, he can run a race. At the top of the weights with Damien Oliver on board. Race 6, the first of our Group 1s, is the Inglis Sires over 1,400 metres. Animo seems to be everyone's best bet of the day, Animo. Obviously a massive run to run second in the Golden Slipper. Cap Devant, Lightsaber, Tiger of Malay, Daily Bugle, Halal, Lease, 4 moves ahead, Queen of Wizardry and Chill in the race. And we've got a couple of questions on Facebook, Hayden, regarding this race. From Paul Sharp, he simply says 4 moves ahead, full stop. We did like 4 moves ahead as a runner who could run well in the Golden Slipper, and I thought her run was pretty good to run 4th. I think off the top of my head, she did run 4th behind Stay Inside. Keith D'Souza has a number of runners that he's keen on. The first is Animo. So how do you see this, Hayden? Like, you obviously got Animo, who is the big performer in the Golden Slipper, or do you want to look for a horse that perhaps has been bypassed the slipper for a race where the trainer thought 1,400 might be more suitable?
Animo is an interesting one. It seems the more they serve up to this 2-year-old, the better he gets. Yeah. Impossible to miss his performance in the slipper. You go with his Randwick performance 2 starts back with the big monster last 400. He was 5 lengths above benchmark last 200 on that occasion. Mm-hmm. Big squeeze again, mid-race in the slipper. Lost his legs 4 to the 2, inferior ground. And just launched late. From a visual, if you take the data aside and you go from purely a visual, you won't see many horses that just look like they're going to win a size. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, he just looks like a size horse. This looks like his race.
The $1.90 is dangerous though, isn't it?
Oh, if it was dry track, I'd tell you not only to have you on to go and get some off someone else and have that on it as well. They wouldn't beat him on a dry track. Wet track, you set him on the wet track, you can bring him back to the benchmark range, which seems to be about that sort of level. You bring him back to benchmark, then he's right level with 4 moves ahead. And even a horse like Tiger of Malay springs right back into contention as well. So you want to take him on his best run and give him the full bullets at the 2.3, he just wins. They won't get anywhere near him. You want to take him on a benchmark style run, then 4 moves ahead's got the better wet track numbers. And Tiger of Malay's right in the race. So it's one of those things you're going to have to make the personal judgment. But just remember, if you don't have a bet in the race, you can't lose. And, from a units perspective, it's dangerous piling, a third of or whatnot of your units for the day into something at tomato sauce odds. So not for me, but that's where they lie. Expect Animo. I honestly expect Animo to just win, but that's what the price says too.
Yeah, and we go back to the slipper. I think stay inside was your tip from Profiteer. My two tips were Animo and 4 moves ahead, and I think they ran 3 of the top 4 spots. It's hard to jump off Animo, but from a betting perspective, I thought Tiger of Malay at around $2.50 the place was probably a better bet than Animo $1.90 the win. I think there was enough in that performance from Tiger of Malay to run second behind Shakiro to suggest that he's looking for 1,400 metres. Astute trainers, Richard Michael Freeman, they obviously won the Golden Slipper with Stay Inside, and they held off going to the slipper with Tiger of Malay and have targeted the Sires. And they're great grand final trainers, the Freedmans, and I'm expecting a big run from Tiger of Malay. Not taking anything away from Animo. It's just $1.90 there versus Tiger of Malay, $2.50 the place. That's just a betting view there. Race 7's the second Group 1 of the day, the ATC Derby, over 2,400 metres for the 3-year-olds. Got a field of 16, 15 boys and 1 girl down the bottom, Montefilia. Couple of questions here on Facebook. Grant Jones, are you still on the Montefilia fill-up Damien Ractliffe? Obviously, I had an early futures play in the Rosehill Guineas and she ran 3rd, so I was lucky that I sort of took each way odds there, but she looks awfully hard to beat here. I know another one of our followers, Keith D'Souza, who's got his 4 bets in the Group 1s. He likes Young Werther, so we'll get your thoughts on the Danny O'Brien runner there. But how do you view the ATC Derby?
Interesting race. Track conditions make it even more interesting. They've dodged this one with Mo'unga, who would have been a dangerous runner in a race like this.
Yeah.
You can take Lyons Rawls, peak number out of it. He comes back to the field. Yaletown was very impressive last start, and I'm of the opinion that Yaletown won off a flat run as well. So I'm expecting Yaletown to go better this time in. My selection in the race was the Kiwi, Rocket Spade. Just go back and watch a couple of this horse's replays. If you don't know much about him, go and have a look at his performance in the Group 1 New Zealand Derby. Mm-hmm. Same track, same style of conditions, same distance as what we're faced with here. He was very good. He was excellent in the Guineas at Ellerslie. He's had a faultless campaign. He's a Guineas winner over there over a mile. And then he had a little barrier trial at his latest. His latest win over a mile. Said that he was still ready to rock and roll again. So they've brought him here. I think the horse has just gone too well not to bring here. And I think he can measure up from an each way perspective. He's the horse I definitely want to be with from runner number 3.
I'm not sure if you can tell us because I know you do have a loyal bunch of clients, but do you have any numbers for us?
Not for him. He just doesn't go out on the, if you want to get an IVR number or anything as such off him, you can go onto Vincent Cardi's website and buy an early edition race speed profile for $22 and it'll give you speed maps for everything of the day and all the IVR numbers for the day. So if you're interested in OS runners, overseas that is, that's where you can get some intel on them for $55. You can get the whole write-up on the whole day. So he's the man to go to for stuff like that. You can get it directly through his website. It's not a sales promotion for him, but we do use daily sectionals IVR numbers. So if you want to get them, that's where they are. After Skylab, he was the horse I thought would be hardest to beat. And then Yaletown and obviously Montefilia. Very difficult race. You've got a string of horses there who are in that +1 to -1 sort of range. So there's as many as 8 possible winning chances there. But it's going to be an important part of a day like today. For me, it is anyway, but, you know, and I'm not one to tell people how to spend their money, but if you are investing in the day, I would be centering my betting strategy around your horses finishing a place and winning overall on the day, because you're going to get exceptional place prices for these runners all day. You know, you're going to get better than $2, $2.50 on some horses who, you know, you're talking about some A-grade runners here. Even some of the favourites will still be around that $1.70, $1.80 the place line. So if your horses are running a place, I'd be winning. And if you're getting a win, I'd be going for the double up. So Skylab hardest to beat. Yaletown definitely going to come to play. If the race, the rail, etc., was in a more favourable position to leaders, I would be more inclined to head in his direction. But I do want to be just off the fence and in the middle of the track. So I am favouring slightly those just off stalking positions midfield. And if the track was dry, I'd be super keen Montefilia, but wet track, a slight concern. But for me, it's Rocket Spade on the each way will be coming to play from Skylab, Yaletown, Montefilia.
All right, that sounds like a pretty good push for Rocket Spade as an each-way play, or certainly $3.80 the place. And I don't have any IVR data yet on that horse. I find Montefilia hard to knock. For mine, she was first up 1,400, second up in the Rosehill Guineas at 2,000, and I think that might have been a little bit of her undoing. I think that run would have really brought her on up to 2,400 metres here. And there's been a change of tactics. I'm not sure if you've seen this, Hayden, but connections have told stewards they want to ride Montefilia forward, which I think is fine, even though her pattern is going back. Some of her wins as an early 3-year-old were high first sections, where I think some of the leaders were going sort of 13 lengths, and she was going +8, +9 from the back of the field. So she can handle that early pressure. I think putting her into the race is going to make her awfully hard to beat. So I'm on Montefilia, but I also respect the spruik you've given Rocket Spade as an each-way play there, having not got that IVR data. The TJ Smith is the third Group 1 of the day. This is a cracking race, Hayden. Bivouac's been backed $6 into $3.80, just shy of Nature Strip, who's a $3.60 favourite. Eduardo's been huge, his last two at $4.40. Masked Crusader, $8 into $7.50. Libertini at 9, September run 11. Then we've got $41 the rest. Nicole Nugent, can Zutori win the TJ Smith Stakes, Hayden?
No.
All right. I think that sums it up.
No, he's not in my numbers. So I have to say no, because he's not in my top 4. So I find he is a class horse. He's a very, very good, genuine and honest horse. I think he'll put in a performance around the +3, +3.5 level. He may go to the 4s with the hot early speed. You might have to go 6 here to win. So that's why I say no.
Yeah.
I wouldn't begrudge him.
That's fair. The other question from Grant Jones, Nature Strip to miss a place. It sounds like he wants to lay Nature Strip to miss the top 3. And he's a really interesting runner because he's obviously favourite here. But in some of these big Group 1s, especially where Eduardo has run with him, how do you see it playing out? Will they bust each other open? They both finished back of the pack in the Everest, the same track and trip. Although Nature Strip wasn't the horse he was in the spring as he is now, and he did win this race last year with I think it was a massive sort of 5.7 number on a heavy track.
Well, who am I to argue with Grant? So if Grant says Nature Strip's not running a place, it's not running a place. So it'll have to come out of my numbers and go down to 4th now. He'll be a very unlucky 4th. What to do? We've got the world's second best horse here, Eddie. Ed's in the race. Ed's flying.
For those following at home, Hayden posted a screenshot of the Longines World Horse rankings from 2021 so far, and Eduardo equals second best horse with Nature Strip based on a couple of his wins this so far this prep. IVR data is flying, but to have him the second best horse of the year is probably a little bit of a stretch.
No, a little bit of a stretch. I reckon if you interviewed Joe Pride at the start of the year, he wouldn't have been the second best horse in the stable, let alone second best horse in the world. But Eddie's flying, and Eddie swims. So the only test for Ed could be the and how can Ed perform off the two hot races he's come through? Difficult race to assess. Ed and Nature Strip is just zero doubt they're going to go a lot at the clappers. The difference this time, though, which I find interesting, is that Ed's drawn outside of Nature Strip. And the J-Max got no real choice but handlebars down. You wouldn't think... It's funny. They're a funny camp, a funny little combo, Waller and J-Mac. Is this their one opportunity to finally sit behind something and stalk it rather than being bustled up out in front? And I know that Ed will go fast enough for him. So tactics will be interesting. I wouldn't want to take the sit on Ed and hope to beat it. I think they've got no option but to handlebars down, let's go like the clappers, which may put Nature Strip's advantage back on and may make the race very interesting. The more and more I looked at it, the more and more I came back to Masked Crusader. He just looks like Johnny on the spot, right race, right time, right conditions. He's a duck. He's a dead set mud runner, this horse, which knocked the zip out of, it's hard to say because I've got a big wet track number on Nature Strip as well, and I've got a big wet track number there on Eduardo. So for me, they're the clear three. And I thought Masked Crusader might just get the run of the race stalking this lot. His mission for Kerrin's going to be keeping him close enough in check with those in front. And then I keep thinking back to Kerrin that every time Kerrin strikes these two horses, he beats them. So he knows how to ride against them. He beat him on the grey horse. You know, this horse got similar profile to the grey horse and similar level of ability, and he's untapped. This might be his, you know, he might stamp himself here as the best sprinter in Australia. Masked Crusader, or he may not, but I'm with him. I think he'll win. Like impossible to fault Nature Strip and Eduardo. Bivouac is the interesting runner. For me, he's a no on race shape and on track conditions. You know, every time he met a horse like, what does the horse, Exceedance or whatever his name was, you know, he fixed him up on the wet track every time they got there. The knockout runner for the place price would be Order of Command. So Masked Crusader on top for me from Nature Strip, Eduardo, Order of Command. I wish Bivouac all the best because I love him.
Yeah, I actually saw it exactly the same as you. Hard to knock Eduardo's prep. I think 1,200 is a question mark for him, and Nature Strip, I think these two could just bust each other open. I'd rather the horse that's going to have that better transfer of energy through their sections. Bivouac can do it, but he's hard to take on trust from his two runs this prep. And you did make a comment on the podcast last week that perhaps he looks like he's got his mind on other things, knowing that he is heading to stud at the end of this prep. And I came back to Masked Crusader, who this prep has had 3 runs. Randwick first up, winner, soft 7, 1,200 metres. I think he ran a best of the day, about 2.3. I'm going off the top of my head here. Randwick second up, 1,300 behind Saviziano. He improved that to a plus 3.1. And then winning the William Reid last start. He broke +5, which is the sort of number you need to win this. He's just a horse that everything has gone right from this prep. I think Barrier 7, Kieran McAvoy, and with Nature Strip and Eduardo potentially overdoing it up front. Masked Crusader is the one that can climb over the top, certainly at $2.30 the place. He's one that fits the 10 to win, 40 the place betting strategy that I like to follow. So I'll be Masked Crusader as well. Doncaster Mile, this is a cracking race, Hayden. Mugatu, the All-Star Mile winner, is the $4.50 favourite. Mwanga, who we've, we really like this horse, second favourite, $8. I know you said he goes to the Derby, he probably wins, but you can't knock Annabelle Neesham for having a crack at the time on a Doncaster with him. Yao Dash 11, Avilius 12, Cascadian 12 has been backed in from $18. Aegon 13, Think It Over 13, Forbidden Love 14, Fun Star 16. Ice Bath gets a start as the second or as the emergency, $19. Star of the Seas 26, Best of Days 26. Rock, who ran fourth last week for us, 26. I'm Superman 34. Dallas and 41, Shout the Bar 51, Wheelhouse, I think it's an emergency at 51. Last year's winner, Natoya 71. Samadout 81, Azaki 81, Olmedo 126. Mate, this is a cracking race. You dissect it for us, and then I'll hit you with a couple of questions from the Facebook page.
Oh, it's a cracking race. Normally, under normal circumstances, this is one of the races of the year where I like to put the shoulders right back and have a go, because normally, under normal circumstances, there's just a top three morale hanging around. But this year's a little bit more complicated than that one. What do? The track conditions probably makes it even more complicated. One of the most improved horses, not so much improved because he stamped himself as early days. Definitely a horse we've followed all the way through. Sam Dowd are the two horses that are likely to go forward. I'm Superman, Forbidden Love, Shout the Bar, all have the speed to go forward with them and stalk. It'll be a cracking pace as it is in this race. I think I use the terminology, we'll use the weight. Use the weight normally means we're going to attempt to end its career on speed. It should be a gear change, use the weight. It's a dangerous thing to do. Normally use the weight means I'm going to ask the horse to do something. A, it's never done, and B, it probably doesn't have the ability to do, hence the weight it's got. Dangerous. People like to go at the 650, 700 metre mark. One thing that's ultra important with handicap racing is less weight doesn't give you more ability. Doesn't matter how much weight they take off, that doesn't give them any more talent. So, interesting race and an extremely compressed race with as many as 10 horses hovering anywhere in between that 3.6 and 2.3, 2.2, 2.3 lengths above IVR benchmark, and basically everything in the field has a number to its name somewhere that says I can win. I looked over the race and found it extremely difficult to find a standout. But the horse I marked on top was Mwanga. I thought his performance 2 starts back over the mile was electric. Then he stepped up to 2,000. The 2,000 back to the mile here, I like. I think at this point in time, this horse is untapped in terms of potential and where his top number is. So he, to me, was the horse to beat. I think he'll get through the track conditions and he'll be in the right part of the straight to strike and strike hard late. He's just got to be patient on him, follow, and you'd love him to pull out the widest. I'm happy with him in a 3-wide line. He doesn't have to do anything excessive or stupid. Pull out to the middle of the track, and you only had to go back 2 starts to go and have a look at his performance at Randwick to realise this horse got an electric turn of foot. So, nothing silly. Forget about the 49.5 kilos and just ride the horse like He is the talent that he is. And I'm going to feel a little bit like Melissa here because my mate Bryce, number 2, Avilius. The reason I say that I think I'm the only person in the world left who likes this horse. But he's impossible to fault. He's flying. He's going to get everything to suit once again. His exertions through the mid-race and his last 600 metres have been super. He gets track conditions once again. He gets a race shape and he gets a track pattern that suits him as well. So he's one, you cannot possibly leave him out of your multiples. I expect him to run top 4. He'll be mighty hard to beat. Now, if Bryce has got a sister, it's Fun Star.
Yep.
So I've got 2 horses that no one likes anymore. I'm the only person left who likes them. Fun Star, again, swimmer, conditions to suit. I'm going back to this stage last year, heavy track, best of the day, plus 5.1, lengths above IVR benchmark with a wet track indicator of plus 10. Think this is the race she's been set for, and she can elevate sharply here. So on Mwanga, from Avilius, from Fun Star, from Mugatu, who I could not possibly fault. Wet track tick. He's a swimmer. Yep. He's talented. He gets the draw. He gets the map. He gets everything. Mugatu. So, you know, I could not possibly knock Mugatu whatsoever and do concede that he's likely the horse to beat. I'm going on the talent and I'm going on the fact that I think Mwanga has the run up his sleeve that could go straight past Mugatu. I think he could go into the 4s, 4.5s, which would make him a rock solid top 3 player. Forgotten horse in the race will be Forbidden Love. If you forgive her last start, go off her start 2 prior, she's right in a race like this. So they're the horses that I want to look out for, but do concede there is 8 to 10 genuine winning chances.
All right, I'll just read through the Facebook questions. Ryan James, can I Am Superman handle a heavy track?
He's a question mark on the heavy track. He's got a profile that screams he's untapped. His last start performance was a career best, 4th best of the day, 2.9 lengths above. Stable's got him in super order. He'll peak here, can go into the 3 to 3.5 range. If the track was dry, I'd say he could almost go to the 4s, which would make him a red-hot chance. The question mark is the track.
All right. We've got a meme here from Chris Martin. Good old Rock. Nothing beats that. It's a Simpsons meme. How do you feel about Rock on the backup? And Chris adds, I feel the difference in price between it and Yao Dash after the bias track last start is just wrong. And they're both off the 7-day backup.
Yeah, you got to go. The Rock's got a series of runs there in the 3.5, 4 range, which again is going to put him right into a race like this. Question mark with him is the track condition, which is unknown. So dry track, he would definitely be right at the top of the numbers and 100% can bounce off the 7-day back. It'd look favourable, if anything. Yao's just a dangerous runner. Yao's just a horse who you have to respect. Under any circumstances, you have to respect it. And Yao looks like he's got the profile that will get him through the wet track. So that's where I could see the discrepancy in the prices because he's raced on a couple of tracks there that have been significantly wetter than what they would be stating in the form guide. A chance of getting through the track condition, and you know he's a bit of a brute from the front, where Rock's going to be in a very similar position with about 3 other runners who not only have the same sort of kick as him over 400 in a straight line, they may have a little bit better kick than him in a straight line over 400, and they might have a favourable position in runs. So tough. But no, I can't knock Rock.
Your brother, Jordan Byrne, best of days in the Donny, knockout chance.
My brother? Yeah, Ryan James is my brother too. I got both enough these. I got both enough these asking questions. I know Jord will be having his money on Best of Days no matter what. You could put Best of Days in the arc and Jord's still going to have something on. He has a chance of getting through the ground, and he's another runner who could go in that +2.5, +3 range. So in any race, mile to 2,000 in Australia, he's always going to be a top 6 player no matter what he's in. Rachy King flying too.
Well, it feels like a decade ago that horse won the Cantala with so I can't remember if it was a +7 or a +8, something silly like that, wasn't it? It was just a massive performance. You might correct me there, but it feels like a lifetime ago.
I think it was about +9.5, mate.
Massive. Yeah, massive performance. I didn't want to overstate it. I'll let you do that. Mitch Waring, how Agon is the worst weighted horse in Australia tomorrow, but still in with a massive sniff if the track stays soft or heavy. Your thoughts on Agon?
Well, what do you reckon my thoughts on weight are?
Well, we know that you don't think a lack of weight adds any talent to the horse. And we were pretty strong 2 starts ago. I think it was Agon's last start where Agon met Mwanga, and we were heavily in the Mwanga camp because I think Agon has consistently found himself at that 1.5 sort of mark from an IVR perspective.
Yeah, he's that's him. That looks like that's his range at the moment. He'd have to dramatically leap. If he had 44 kilos, I still wouldn't back him in this. The true element of handicapping in a race like this, you can throw your weight in the bin. If you want to go and adjust things for weight, it just proves that if Very Elegant's not in the top 5 horses in Australia, that's what adjusting for weight looks like. So you can go back to that little Longines top 50 list and see how much of a mess you can make when you make things up. Agon, positive barrier, positive map. So your true art of handicapping a race like this is A, where do you want to be in terms of track positioning? And B, how far off the lead speed you're going to be at the 800. So they're the two little things you want to look at, and you can handicap your horses from their likely position at the 800. If the rail's shot and you're coming up the rail, doesn't matter what weight you got, you can't win. And if you can't get out into the faster lanes and you've got to come through neutral ground, again, it'll play on speed, advantage on speed. So you've got to get your positioning right. Your mapping will do you a lot more favours than adding mystery kilos to adding mystery lengths to a horse or taking mystery lengths away. There's no horses here with an excessive weight. You got horses like Mugatu, etc., who would carry more weight in a race like a Cox Plate and run top 3. And they've got peak performances from an analytical perspective with higher weights. So it's not something I want to get all hung up about, because every horse isn't the same. Every horse is at different stages of their campaign, and every horse doesn't weigh the same. So you're handicapping, and it's not the same field running repetitively around every single week where you can start to play weight advantages, etc. There's more advantages in track positioning and reading of the track. So I don't dismiss it totally. It's got its place. It's better in Hong Kong where you know the weights of the horses, etc., and their conditioning levels and whatnot. So in terms of Agon, the track, the map, he gets everything in his favour. I question him from a talent perspective whether he's good enough.
Yep, fair enough. And I just want to add 4 Group 1 handicaps in the last 12 months. The Rupert Clark Behemoth carried top weight. We were keen to back him knowing that he brought the IVR figure and weight wouldn't stop him. He won the Rupert Clark. Mr. Quickie won the Toorak as the top weight, had that big IVR figure from the Mackay Diva, I think a year earlier. Eduardo, last 2 weeks ago, won the Galaxy. The top of the weights, we got $7 just because he was carrying, I think, 60 kilos. And Zutori won the Newmarket Handicap, and he just went to his profile. He didn't do anything special. Yes, September Run might have not lived up to her profile that day, but it shows that good horses can still win handicaps. Weight doesn't stop them, and weight isn't going to play a massive bearing in this race. For me, I found it hard to break down as well. Chris Waller last year had 8 runners in this race. This year he's only got 2. He's got Star of the Seas, who he wanted to get into an All-Star Mile. You picked that up when Star of the Seas went to the Blamey, and he smashed him in the Blamey and ran in the All-Star Mile. The other horse that he didn't target for the All-Star Mile was Fun Star, because this is the race he wanted to win. And you talk about that 3.6 to 2.1 sort of being the range where there's a dozen horses that can run to that figure. So I wanted to find horses that have broken +5. Fun Star's a horse that's done that a number of times. Most recently, I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying, was when she ran second in the Epsom to Probabile. This track and distance, 3rd of October. She drew out barrier 16. Here she's got barrier 17. I think the wide barriers in these big handicaps is actually an advantage, because they're able to get out into the clear air earlier. They're not going to get caught up in trouble. It just looks to me like this is a race that Chris Waller has set Fun Star for. And you mentioned good horses not running in this race, or no standouts. Colding is a horse that looked like he's an out-and-out miler, and if he got a firm track here, I wouldn't care if he had 60 kilos. I'd be keen on Colding here, but for me, it just looks like Chris Waller wants to win this race with Fun Star, and if I'm looking for a horse that has those +5 and above figures, Fun Star looks like a horse that can go there. The other one for me that you haven't mentioned yet was Cascadian. He's super hard to catch. I can't remember the last time he won a race, to be honest. I'd have to go back and have a look. I'm just trying to find him here. But the big number that he produced was when he ran in October in the Cantala behind Yulong Prince. He ran second, again, a big 1,600 metre Group 1 handicap, carrying 54.5 kilos. He jumped from barrier 14. The negative here for him is he jumps from barrier 3. And I know the punters have come for him 18 into 12, but I actually think barrier 3 might be a little bit of a negative, because he could get stuck in trouble. But Jamie Carr rides, and she can ride a broomstick at the moment, the way she's going. So Cascadian and Fun Star are 2 horses at around, Fun Star, we're getting $16. Cascadian's $12. You could back them each way. I agree with you, R.E. Mwanga. I would rather be on Mwanga than Mugatu in putting that shortly. So they're the 3 that I will be playing around. And I think if you're having a quaddie, you can't really leave out Natoya on what she did in this race last year. I know it's been a while between drinks, but she sort of had nothing profile-wise going into that race, and she produced I think it was 3.6, which probably need more than that, but on a heavy track, that's a pretty good number. And if it did deteriorate, she can produce that sort of number. We haven't really seen it since this race last year, but respect what she did in that race last year. But geez, this is a really tough race. I'll circle back to make sure I haven't missed any Facebook questions right at the end. Hayden, the last race is the China Horse Club PJ Bell Stakes. Tough little race. Never Talk is $3.70. Makrura is $6. Mabusha $6.50. Najma $9.50. Every Rose $11.
I suppose you want me to declare something in the last again and disappoint everybody when it gets beat.
Well, it's not a great race to finish with, is it? Do you have a standout at all, or?
I would have if the track was dry. If we get a dramatically improving track, we get a dramatically improving track, you can back Matchmaker each way and he won't miss the money. But you'll need to get conditions in the soft zone or better. He's the horse to beat, but Never Talk cannot possibly fault that horse. And if the track's a genuine 7, H8, S7, it's the horse to beat, and it'll be a very difficult horse to be beating. So Never Talk, Matchmaker, they're my two. I expect one of them to win, but not a race that I'm overly keen on. But they're my two. I can't believe. Lucky this is for free, mate, because we've just talked up Avilius, Fun Star,
and then I threw in Cascadian as well.
Well, if we needed a third squirrel for the trifecta, it was that, wasn't it? I think the last time it won a race, Mickey Barcelona rode it in who knows where.
Is Tommy Melbourne running in this race too?
Oh, if Tom was there, we'd find it, I reckon. It's real. We've tipped Bryce, we've tipped his sister, and then you plucked Cascadian. I think the last time Cascadian won a race from memory might have been the lead up to this last year, that prelude.
Actually, you're right. You're right. And I'm pretty sure he did produce a really nice performance there. But then what he did behind Yulong Prince last year was just massive. But probably got to take on caution that he's only sort of done that once.
Well, I reckon if Avilius, Cascadian, and
Fun Star,
they run the try, we got to do something.
I'm going to have $6 on for 100% and see how we go. My one little excuse for Cascadian last prep, it took him 5 runs to get into his 5 runs to reach that number. But all 4 of those runs leading in were at Caulfield, and 3 of them were on a good 3. And I think he doesn't go on a really firm track, and Flemington is a different type of surface, and he just really produced a massive number there. But
we've got the riders. We've got J-Mac, Willow, and Jamie Carr.
Yeah.
And I don't buy into the non-winners.
Okay.
That if you see horses and they're out there, they're running and they're running well. One thing you've always got to do is you've got to take as much out of your form as you possibly can that you're making up. So I know the statistic will be there that they haven't won, and a lot of the time it's got to do with their race pattern. So horses who get further back than midfield, etc., and have that dashy run-on style, that's their race pattern. Over 50% of the time they'll get onto race tracks where it's almost impossible to win from that position. And of the 50% of the time that they get where they can run on from that position, A, they need a race track to be able to do it. And B, they also require an element of luck. So when you take them on a statistical profile, their realistic chances are a 1 in 10 as it is with that style of race. So, these are the style of races that do suit those type of horses, and they're going to get a track that will play in their favour. You put them on that Rose Hill track last week and they could have 1,000 goes at it, they wouldn't win one of them. So they're going to get an opportunity into the faster part of the track out wide.
While we're on it, Hayden, so Cascadian, obviously 1,400 first up, 1,500 second up. Looks like he's been set for third up into this race, but comes through a race where Think It Over won at plus 1.8. Bossy Rides has won a number of Doncasters now. We haven't mentioned Think It Over. You've mentioned Avilius, who ran third that day. I've mentioned Cascadian, who ran fourth. And just looking at the race, they're the 3 horses that broke benchmark the third section. Avilius was -11 through the first section, was benchmarked through the second section. So that's 11 length squeeze, finished plus 2.6 the third section. Cascadian was minus 10.7, then minus 1.5 to the second section. That's a 9 length improvement. Finished with plus 3 in the third section, but actually had a little 0.8 length slowdown between from the 8 to the 6 to the 6 to the 4. So that's why I thought Cascadian's run had a bit of merit there. But Think It Over, is he a horse that we should be considering as well, or he's coming off that plus 1.8, but I'm not sure he's a horse that's got that +4 or +5 performance to his name just yet.
I give him full bullets and do concede that he runs well on wet ground. And if I give him everything, he goes to a 2.5. And if he wins, they haven't shown up.
Yeah, fair point.
So he can win. He can win, but 2.5's going to have to be good enough to win it.
Yeah, and basically what we're saying there is think it over with his plus 1.8 last week, beat horses who have higher numbers to their record and perhaps were had other races in mind, like Cascadian third up here, like Funstar, who looks like she's been targeted at this race, like Avilius, who he ran a plus 1.5, so he wasn't beaten far. That was a pretty big run, but he's got more in the tank to come. I'm just going to wheel back through these comments again, make sure I've haven't missed anyone. So Keith D'Souza had those 4 tips in the Group 1s. Let's go through them again. Animo.
Nice horse, dry tracker to just win. Looks like a size horse. I can't knock it, should win.
Young Werther in the Derby.
Can't cop him. He's not one of mine because he hasn't got that run to his name yet. He just doesn't have a performance above benchmark. He's one of those runners where you watch him, you can see that he's got some talent, but until they've got that number, they're a dangerous betting commodity. So his profile, his previous start was his career best. So do concede he's on the up. But he's most likely going to have to find 2 lengths on the low, and it's going to be a 2-length PB to win. So he's not for mine. He's going to have, I'll let him go around and beat me because I know if I take 50 of them on, 2 will get me.
And he's got the Godolphin double, Bivouac and Cascadian.
I can make a case for Bivouac. And certainly when it comes to an IVR profile, there's no knock. This is where he's going to get to in the run, and are they going to ride him outside his comfort zone? He's vital. He settles through the first section, and he's not overly busted up through the mid, and then he's got that electric late sprint. So he's a Flemington straight horse, and when he gets out of his ground in a race like an Everest, even a TJ, he will be that horse who's the massive run late. If he's ridden outside his comfort zone, he's no hope.
All right.
He's the right rider.
The one comment that we haven't got to yet, Darren Ryan, he's got a massive multi going, Hayden, odds of $742.50. They're the odds he's got. I'm not sure how much he's had on. First leg's already saluted. Hungry Heart in the binary at $7.50. And we were on there, so great work there, Darren. Second leg is Montefilia in the Derby, and he got 11s. And the third leg, Masked Crusader in the TJ at 9s.
Oh, if Montefilia wins, if we could get Darren to put his address up, we might make our way over to Darren's place to watch Masked Crusader. And if Masked Crusader gets home, we'll all stay with Daz and we'll kick on, and he can put a good bite. And if it gets beat, we'll hit the road, eh? Darren,
here's a challenge for you, mate. If Montefilia gets up, I want your next of kin to record you while the TJ's on, and we're going to post the video, win or lose Masked Crusader, and I'm happy to flick you $50 for us to post that video exclusively on Next Gen, win or lose, mate, and we'll be on Masked Crusader.
Well, dust. If that gets up, we're not giving him 50.
No, well, okay. If it gets up, we're not giving you the 50. But if it loses, I'll flick you $50, or we'll figure out a $50 free bet or a couple of tickets to the footy or something like that.
And if it gets up, you probably need his next to kin as well, I reckon.
Yes. Well,
it'll be a big night.
We will be on. I'm on Montefilia, and I'll be on Masked Crusader. Hayden's on Masked Crusader, so we'll be cheering with you. But we'd love to put that video out to our next gen followers exclusively on Saturday afternoon. Mate, this has been a long podcast, but I really appreciate all the feedback, all the questions that we've got. Hopefully this recording or these video podcasts, we can get to the point where we get more and more contribution, and Hayden can answer those questions directly. But do you want to leave us with any best bets? You gave a pretty good spruik each way. The Kiwi horse in the Derby, Rocket Spade. And I think we both like Masked Crusader in the TJ.
Yeah, you can jot down Dollar for Dollar, Anna Vista, and Vegas Jewel from Caulfield. All three should be hard to beat. Collingwood should be very hard to beat tomorrow night. And I think the best bet of the week is surely, Bryce's missus says leave on Married at First Sight. Surely. It's got to be this week. Sure. It just has to be. She couldn't possibly hang around any longer. And if Avilius doesn't win or Funstar doesn't win, I'm going to give them the Bryce as well, and that's going to be the end.
I'd like to say that's that's some content there for our female viewers, but I know Hayden is probably the number one fan of Married at First Sight, and I'm probably not far behind as second favorite. So shout out to all the Married at First Sight fans. I know our mate Punt King Tim Kennedy is also a massive fan of the show too. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your Doncaster Stakes Day. Masked Crusader at $9 each way. Looks like one that we're both agreed on there. So hopefully there's that we can.
Is there before we go? Is there a Mrs. Punt King?
I don't know. I'll find out from the Punt King and find out. I'll message him and find out.
If there is no Mrs. Punt King, Next Gen are going to start a campaign for the 2022 version. Married at First Sight, we want the Punt King on.
The Bachelor. Good to chat, mate. Go Pies.
Might be
Sorry, mate. You're breaking up right at the end there.
Oh.
Sorry, mate. You just broke up at the end there. I'll get you to sign off one more time.
Oh, we're back, are we? I think I froze or you froze. One of us froze. I was just going to say, unless they want to start filming the Bachelor Lammies down in Geelong, we might have to stick to Married at First Sight.
All right, mate. See you later.
All right.